Again, my name is Chief Sean Barnes, Shonbarnes, with our third update of the day regarding our school shooting here in Madison, Wisconsin. Here are the latest updates. The reunification of students and their loved ones who survived this incident is complete. All student survivors have been reunified with their parents. We're still in the process of reunifying some of our staff, our teachers who selflessly stayed back to make sure our kids were okay. We're currently reunifying them with their loved ones as well. We do understand that this process of reunification may have taken a while, and parents really wanted to see their children, give their children a hug. Certainly I would as a father, but we are fortunate that that process is complete. As such, I want to thank the Dean Clinic. This clinic actually shut down their doors today in order to provide a space so that students who survived this incident could be reunified with their loved ones, and we thank them for doing this. At this time, we're still working on a motive, trying to determine why this happened. We know that there is some information that may be circulating about the shooter. I cannot, at this time, formally tell you the age or gender or name of the shooter. We do not want to compromise any part of the investigation, but it is important to note that later today at 8:30, I plan to give an additional update, and I believe at that time we may be able to give you the answers to some of those questions. Here's what we know again. We have 3 people who have lost their lives. 2 of those people were persons who were pronounced dead at the scene, and 1 while on the way to the hospital. Of the 6 injured and taken to local hospitals, 2 students remain in critical condition. Their injuries are life-threatening. A teacher and 3 other students were taken to area hospitals with non-life-threatening injuries. 2 of those victims, 2 of those survivors, have been released from the hospital. So that is an update. Officers were dispatched to Abundant Life Christian School at 10:57. I can confirm that the first officers arrived at 11 a.m. and immediately went in the building 3 minutes later. The Crime Response Unit of Dane County District Attorney's Office, assisted by the Dane County Emergency Management, and we're mobilizing our Mass Violence Critical Response Team. Once again, our Mass Violence Critical Response Team has been notified. This is a group of people trained in responding to victims of mass violence, which includes social workers, attorneys, victims, professionals, former law enforcement, and members of our community. If you need further assistance or want to know how you can help, you can contact the Crime Response Program. They have a daytime number of 608-284-6908. They have an after-hours number for those who may want to help at 608-376-0164. 608-376-0164. Pre-planned or planned shootings, we believe, are preventable. If you see warning behaviors from someone that is planning an attack, say something, do something. You can report this at 1-800-MY-SUSO1, 1-800-MY-SUSO1. At this time, joining us is Director of Advancement, Barbara Wood.
Thank you. I understand there's questions regarding the school. We're happy to answer those to the best of our ability. We have been incredibly supported by Madison Police, Madison Fire, and the paramedics. They have been absolutely amazing to us. It was quite an afternoon for the reunification process, and we had so many people stepping up to help. Our families were amazing in their patience as we worked through this. We are so grateful, from the president up to the governor, the mayor. We have had so much support. This has obviously rocked our school community, but we know it affects not just our school community, but Madison and the greater area and all schools. And so our hope is that there will be some good that comes out of this as we can learn and grow and continue to support other schools.
Okay, we'll take questions. Scott, you got the first target.
Chief, can you give us any details about if there are any warning signs that premeditated this, either at the school or with the family or elsewhere, that would have caused any red flags?
Yeah, that's what the officers and detectives are working on now. Hopefully this afternoon at our fourth press conference, I'll be able to answer that a little bit further. But right now, I cannot tell you. They're still talking to parents who are cooperating. And so hopefully we'll be able to give you a more detailed response as to any warning signs or anything that we may have possibly known prior to this.
All right, Maddie from WISD.
There's been heavy police presence at a home on the north side. Can you confirm if that's related to this?
I can confirm that it is related to this and everyone is cooperating. And so hopefully later today, if you stick around, we'll be able to give you more information about that and what we may have learned from that process. Again, this is a situation where students, teachers were injured and killed, and everyone wants to cooperate, everyone wants to give as much information as they can so we can piece this together for our community.
Thank you.
Okay, Phoebe from Wisconsin Watch.
Yeah, hi, Chief. So, accounts online are sharing doctored and debunked photos to push a narrative about the identity of the shooter that goes far beyond what has been released publicly. Can you respond to that, and can you also say what effect that has on either the families of the victims or the public's trust in the law enforcement investigation, and what you say contradicts this media or this narrative that's on social media?
Absolutely. Social media is something that, quite frankly, I can't control, and neither can anyone in this room. Everyone in here is a trusted and respectful journalist, and your word means a lot, which is why we're doing our third press conference of the day to get the actual truth out to what has happened. We have a PIO, 3 of them, working today to make sure we have information. I will say this. If you're listening to this or you're at home, you're thinking about reposting or sending something that did not come from someone in this room, a trusted and respected journalist, or did not come from us, please don't do that. Because to answer the second part of your question, what that does is it does help erode the trust in this process, and that's all we have. And also, it could further fan the flames, if you will, of misinformation and of fear at a time where we need to come together and not be divided by anything.
All right, WMTV.
Hello. Although unfortunate to ask about, were there any lessons learned from back in May from the Mount Horeb shooting that you guys used in action today?
So we were not, that's not my jurisdiction, and so I won't speak to anything that we learned at Mount Horeb. But I will speak to 25 years of law enforcement. What I've learned is that every opportunity is an opportunity to grow, do better, and train. This department trains constantly on this thing. I spoke about it earlier. We train as far recent as actually today because our set medics were training at the training center 3 miles away, and their training day turned into an actual response. So as far as the incident at Mount Horeb, it wasn't my jurisdiction. So the only thing that I can tell you is we try to learn from everything and try to get better. Even this one, we'll do an after-action debrief once everything is done, and we'll talk about how we responded. Is there anything that we can do better? Continuous improvement is one of our core values, and we take that very seriously.
All right, Laura from the Journal-Sentinel.
Do you have any idea where the gun came from? Did it belong to the shooter? Did it belong to parents?
I do not know. That's part of the investigation process. We're trying to determine that. We're lucky to have great partners at the ATF. They obviously have a program that you're all aware of called the TRACE program. And so we're working with them to try to find the origin of this, and I have no doubt that we'll be able to do that with their help. They are amazing partners along with our partners from the FBI.
It was a handgun, right? To confirm.
I confirmed earlier it was a handgun.
WKOW Madison.
Okay.
All right, Cody.
Yeah, can I ask Barbara a question? Is that okay? Just curious, what kind of safety protocols are in place in the school? Do you have metal detectors, police on staff, kind of anything like that? Does this kind of change the way things will be looking for? I know it's kind of early to ask that.
We're a small private Christian school here on the east side of Madison. We serve 3K to 12. We have had an amazing partnership with the DOJ and the Office of Schools Safety, because they have done trainings, they've provided school safety grants, and we have participated in both of those school safety grants to harden our school, if you can use that language. We do not have metal detectors, but we do have a number of security protocols in place. We have always been told not to share our security protocols with publicly, because then those who might want to do harm will know your security protocols. But the students are aware that there are cameras in the building, and we do monitor those regularly in the offices so that we know what is happening in the hallways. We also have other safety measures throughout the building, but as to a metal detector, no, we do not have. We do abide by the policy of visual scans every morning as students come into the building, so every student is visually scanned before they go into up to their locker spaces or into their classrooms.
How many students are there?
420, 3K to 12.
Lucas from the State Journal.
What part of the school did the shooting happen in?
Say again.
I said, what part of the school did the shooting happen in?
It happened near so the school is obviously segregated into sections. I'm told that it happened at a period of time when the transition was complete. Students were where they were supposed to be, near classrooms in the hallway. I did not, again, go into the school, so I don't know the exact nomenclature of where it happened, but it happened in the learning part of the school. So once.
Barbara, speak to that, maybe the specifics of the layout of the school.
Yeah, because we're still investigating, we'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
All right, Sarah from WPR.
You mentioned that the school has a partnership with the Office of School Safety, with the Attorney General's office. Did police have access to blueprints at the school as a result of that partnership, and how did that inform the police response?
We had that all uploaded. I don't know what the police did.
You want to?
So,
Okay.
I can speak to the blueprints and the maps. We do have those uploaded as part of our reporting to the Department of Justice and the Office of School Safety. How they were used, I don't know. I do know that the police were going through and they were working with staff to secure the different areas, and that they did have maps. So whether those are the blueprint maps or what they were using, that I can't speak to, but I do know that they did have maps.
Just to clarify, when you said visual scans, is that sort of like looking at the student up and down, or is that going into a scan or device?
It's a visual scan where we look at the student to see if there's anything unique or unusual in them.
All right, Ken from WKPP.
Sure. If I could get Barbara back real quick, I'm so sorry. I don't know if you've had a ton of conversations with parents or staff members today, but what is the prevailing thought or message that they wanted to impart to you in administration?
Sure. I've had the opportunity to speak to the parents at the reunification site a couple of different times. The families that I did speak to mostly were, as you would expect at Abundant Life, they were supportive, they were amazingly patient and kind. They were offering repeatedly, we're praying for you, we're praying for our family, because at ALCS we call ourselves the Challenger family. We see ourselves as a family, not just a community. And whether their child was affected by this or not, they were affected by it, because what affects one part of the body affects all, as we know, the Bible says. And so we hold that dear. We also have a very strong faith in our community that in spite of tragedy, God is working, and we believe that God is good in everything, and that he turns beauty for ashes. And so I had a number of families who mentioned that to me, that this wasn't a surprise to God, and that he's going to do something mighty with it. And so we're holding on to those words, and we're continuing to believe and trust in him. He is our foundation at Abundant Life Christian School. We exist to bring and to build disciples of Jesus Christ, and so we have complete faith that he will carry us through this.
All right, Danielle from Cap Times.
I have another question for Barbara. Sorry to bring you back up.
Yeah, that's fine.
So what details can you share about what students were up to right before the shooting started, the environment, what their morning was like, details about their day?
So some of this is part of the investigation, so I think there's limited things that I can say at this time. Once the investigation is complete, obviously there will be more that will be shared. We certainly don't want to say anything that would impede MPD. That would be critical, so I will actually step aside and let the Chief Barnes speak to that because he is the lead for that.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. We're certainly working to get as much information as you can. We'll do another, a fourth, I think, press conference today, later on today, I think at 8:30. And so hopefully we will have a little more information for you.
Okay, DG with PBS Wisconsin.
Chief Barnes, were there other search warrants executed today in addition to the house on Knoxville?
I'm not aware of any.
All right, Carl from NBC 26.
Yeah, I have a question for Barbara. Was this the shooter at school at the beginning of the day, or was there a forceful entry later in the day?
We believe that,
I believe that's a good question.
yeah, we believe that the shooter was at school. We have no information that there was some type of breach to the school.
Okay, Jenna from WMTV.
TMJ4?
Yep, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Question for you, Barbara, if you don't mind. Can you just talk about, Chief earlier mentioned how teachers and employees and staff really follow the protocols that you guys have practiced in place. I know that this is an emotional event, obviously for students, but those teachers really take it to heart when they are sitting there protecting those little ones at the school. Can you talk a little bit about what they did right in this situation? Obviously, this is tragic, but unfortunately, we've seen school shootings play out that are far worse than what we saw today.
So it's timely that just prior to the start of the school year, we had a retraining. We train on this. We do lockdown drills. We do evacuation drills as part of our standard drill protocols. Our students are versed in that. Our faculty are well versed in that. The training that we did with MPD at the very beginning of the year prior to the students returning to campus had some new updates, and so we had looked at some of those things. So I think everything was very fresh for our faculty. We follow the protocol of always keeping our school doors locked, and so that is one of the things that makes it quick and easy to secure a room. I was actually teaching at the time, and so following those protocols as a teacher would do, we take care of making sure the door is secure. We shut the door down. We get the students to a safe part of the room, and we prepare. The students handled themselves magnificently. I cannot tell you how well our students did in that process. They were clearly scared when they realized, when we practice, we always say, this is a drill. It is just a drill. When they heard lockdown, and nothing else, they knew it was real. But they handled themselves brilliantly. And our faculty, kudos to them for following the protocols, keeping their students safe, doing what we have been trained to do. And so much credit of that goes to the Department of Justice and the Office of School Safety. We have been through a number of trainings by them, and we follow their standards. And while we had never hoped to actually employ them, today they helped keep students safe.
We have no additional comments. Sure.
I'm Trish Kilpin, the Director of the Office of School Safety at Wisconsin DOJ, and I just would like to reiterate something Chief Barnes had mentioned earlier, and that is that targeted violence is preventable. That when somebody conducts a school shooting, they don't simply snap. They don't just decide one day to engage in this egregious behavior. Instead, they make a decision and start research and planning towards an act of violence. And when they're on that pathway to violence, they often demonstrate observable behaviors that others notice. 82% of the time, somebody knows about a school shooter's plan to attack a school. So I encourage all in the community, students, parents alike, to report to Speak Up, Speak Out Wisconsin, our 24/7 call center, where we do receive concerns about planned school attacks and deliver them locally to local law enforcement and schools to intervene to prevent violence.
Can you say and spell your first and last name, please, Chris?
Trish Kilpin, TRISHKILPIN, Director, Wisconsin DOJ, Office of School Safety.
All right, Charlie from WRT.
Yeah, this first question is for Director Weir. I know that the school is on the last days of classes before winter break. What are your school plans for the rest of the week, and what kind of community processing, understanding that you might not know yet,
Sure.
you have another?
So at this time, the school is a crime scene, so the students nor staff can be on site. We want to make sure that we work in tandem with Madison Police and have them do everything that they need to do, so we will abide by their standards, and when they say we can be back in the building, we'll return back to the building. We do have a goal of trying to get our staff together here early in the week and then try to have some community opportunities for our students to reconnect before the holidays. Whether we will return to classes this week, because this was our last week, we were done on Friday, is still to be determined. I do know that there is talk of a public vigil down at the Capitol. We are so grateful that we have this amazing support from the community, and so we thank them for that. Our families will, I would guess, participate in that, and I'm sure that as we move forward, we will have more plans of what we will do specifically for them. Our focus today was the reunification of getting kids to their families.
All right, we don't have too many more. Whitney from CNN.
Through the parents' cooperation, and I know you're reluctant to talk about more at this point because there's so much to know, but have they given you any indication that they know perhaps what the motive is?
They're still in interview, so we don't know what they're telling our detectives. I can only tell you that because they're still in interview, because they're still talking, we are getting cooperation from them. As to the specifics of what they're saying, we don't know that. One of the things that we try to do, that we've learned doing interviews with people who are cooperative, is not to interrupt. And so I would not want to interrupt the interview just to give information. We'll come back a little later. If we can have more information, we'll do that. Thank you.
All right, Rod from Fox 9. All right, Adam from CBS Milwaukee.
For the chief, right here. What can you tell us about whether these victims were targeted at all, and are there cameras inside the school?
Yeah, I think whether they were targeted or not would speak to motivation, and we don't know that answer just yet. But I do believe the director stated that there were cameras inside the building, public space cameras.
Dane from, go ahead.
How many shots roughly were fired? Do you know yet?
No, we do not know that. That will be a part of the forensic investigation. Our crime scene investigators will be going through that, and we have also have been offered help from the FBI if we needed additional help to actually process the scene as well. But right now, that's a question that we really cannot answer.
Okay, Nick from WISN.
Is anyone in custody, and is there any reason to think that there was anybody else involved?
There is not, no.
Brett from Fox 6.
Were there any other weapons or any notes left behind?
Not that I'm prepared to share now.
Bob from ABC News.
Good. Well, yeah, we were wondering where the mayor is right now, and what is more important for her than attending this press?
She was here earlier. She gave her statements, which I thought were very appropriate. We're going to do multiple press conferences, and so we want the focus to be on information for the community that's going to come from the police department. So that is what I will tell you. She was here earlier, and maybe you missed it, but she was here. I also want to say that
Will she attend later tonight?
I do not know that. I do not know that. But I do know she was here when we had our main press conference. Additionally, we have been receiving a lot of calls. I was on the phone with the Attorney General, Merrick Garland. I know we did receive a call from the President and his office and several others from around the state, including the governor. And so we thank them for their interest in that.
Okay, Mills from News Nation.
This is for Barbara. Do you guys have a school resource officer? And then also, too, is the school one level, two level? When you walk in, what's that look like?
Sure. Yeah, 2 levels.
Sure. So we do not have a school resource officer. Again, as a small school, that is outside of our possibilities right now. We are a 2-level school, so there's 2 tiers to us. We are shaped as a giant L. We have a main entrance through that is secured during the school day. So anyone coming in after school hour, once school starts at 8:05, would need to buzz in and be let in.
All right, I'll let Chief Barnes close this out, and then we'll be back at 8:30.
So again, I want to thank everyone for being here, Chief, everyone for all the support. This has been really a day of collaboration, a day of preparation, a day in the making that we hoped would not happen. Again, as someone who was a former public school teacher, teaching history for 4 years in a public high school, As someone who's a father, it's a day that will be certainly etched in the collective memories of everyone in Madison, and just another example of what can happen in our country. We have to do better. We have to collaborate with each other. We have to understand the warning signs, and we have to use our resources when we see things that may be going wrong or someone who may be going off the beaten path. That's the charge really to our country now, and we have to do a better job of taking care of each other. And so all children have been reunified with their parents, and these children are now the latest group of survivors of a school shooting, this time, unfortunately, in Madison, Wisconsin. We will try to come back around 8:30 with additional information for our fourth press conference of the day. Thank you for being here.
Day they say they hope would never have happened. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. You just heard the latest update from police about that school shooting in Madison, Wisconsin. We learned more about the school's safety precautions, including what they call visual scans of students, not just metal detectors. Police just announced it took officers 3 minutes to respond after the call came in for help. The shooting happened just before 11 a.m. at the Abundant Life Christian School. Sources tell ABC News tonight the shooter was a female student who police say turned the gun on herself before officers arrived. They say that her parents are cooperating in the investigation. They're still being interviewed by police at this time. 2 victims are dead, a teen student and a teacher. 6 others were injured, including 2 students who are now fighting for their lives. Tonight, the focus is on a community in mourning 1 week before Christmas as investigators hunt for a motive. The police chief there, once a public school teacher himself, has said enough is enough. Alex Perez begins our team coverage with the latest in the investigation.
Tonight, an anguished community shattered by gun violence after police say a student brought a handgun to the Abundant Life Christian School and opened fire, killing a teacher and another student. Sources tell ABC News the suspect is a female teenaged student.
There have been at least 50 cops. I don't know what is going on.
Sirens wailing in Madison, Wisconsin just before 11 a.m. A sea of flashing lights outside the private K-12 school on the east side of town.
When officers arrived, they found multiple victims suffering from gunshot wounds.
At least 6 others injured. Other schools in the area put on lockdown as police went room by room clearing the school. John Diaz de Leon lives across the street.
Some of the older students were running across the parking lot to the church sanctuary, and then later on, very slowly, in a more orderly fashion, the younger students holding hands were led out to go across the parking lots to the sanctuary.
Britt and Kyle Grange emotional and grateful their children are okay.
I'm very, very, very thankful. I mean, the gut-wrenching feeling that you feel when you get that notification, there's no, like, you always just hope that never happens, and it happened today.
Police Chief Sean Barnes, a former teacher himself, says the teenage suspect is believed to have died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
So close to Christmas, Every child, every person in that building is a victim and will be a victim forever. And these types of trauma don't just go away.
Alex Perez joins us now from Madison, Wisconsin. And Alex, I know that we learned more about the safety measures inside the school and what protocols police took. Break down what officials said during the latest news conference about that.
Yeah, Lindsay, in that press conference just a short time ago, we learned that authorities are still trying to track down a lot of information. They're still working on a motive. They're still trying to figure out how exactly this teen suspect got a handgun. The police chief in that press conference saying that investigators are actively, as we speak, speaking to the parents of that shooter, trying to get whatever information and details they can. That shooter, Lindsay, police telling us they believe died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. You might hear sirens around me here, a lot of activity. This is an area where parents were being reunited with their students, their children, who they had been looking for all day, Lindsay. It was a difficult day for so many of those parents. This was supposed to be Spirit Week. Today, Monday, was actually Pajama Day, Christmas Pajama Day. So there were a lot of kids who were inside the school dressed in their pajamas, ready to start the week off on a good note. And sadly, it began with this tragedy this morning, Lindsay.
And we also heard about the role taken by teachers and staff. How do they help to keep the students safe in the school?
Yeah, Lindsay, some school officials were talking about some of their safety protocols. They say they don't like to reveal all of their safety protocols because then that puts them in danger. They say this is a smaller school, so they don't have a school resource officer on the premises all the time. They also say they do not have metal detectors at this small Christian school, but they say they have other safety protocols, including cameras that are monitored that show the hallways and classrooms. And they say all teachers and staff are trained to do what they call visual verification, visually look at students and scan students as they walk in every day, as they move through the hallways. Teachers and staff are trained to look for certain signs that may indicate that something wrong is about to happen. At this point, Lindsay, it appears that the teachers all acted the way they were supposed to, followed the training that they were supposed to follow. The police chief says that just 2 weeks ago, his department completed an active shooter training, and that training they received 2 weeks ago was put into use today, Lindsay.
All right, Alex Perez, our thanks to you. And we're joined now by ABC News contributor and former FBI agent Brad Garrett. Brad, thank you for joining us. First, we just heard that from the officials that this shooter was a female. Curious to get your reaction to that.
So it is unusual, Lindsay, to have a female school shooter, but I could give you a few examples. But I think there's another way to look at this, is that when you look at the crime stats, particularly in murder and assaults, there's been an upward tick in recent years of females committing more of those. Not a lot, clearly not proportional to male. I'm only suggesting is there's a tendency for some females to step into more traditional male roles, unfortunately, even in crime. So having said that, I still believe that whatever the ultimate profile is of this female, it's going to be very similar to a male from the standpoint of what drives a school shooter to walk in and shoot fellow classmates and teachers. You know, depression, anger, rage, feeling powerless, maybe was bullied, and there's going to be behavioral change in her in some form or fashion, from maybe dress to language, dark thoughts, maybe even talked about a weapon. There'll be kids in that school that survived that they'll have information. And, you know, that combined with the parents, which we're told by the police chief in Madison are cooperating, which is huge because they clearly can fill in some of these blanks. So if you combine what they're telling law enforcement as we speak, combine it with what students and teachers are saying about this deceased shooter, you're going to have a picture as to, unfortunately, how we ended up today.
A school official said tonight that the so-called visual scans are part of their protocol in which they observe every student entering for anything unique or unusual. In light of today's tragedy, what would you say about that protocol?
Well, my son goes to a small private school, and they know me, they know him, obviously, and they put a number of teachers at the front door who visually look at every kid that walks in, because there's only 300 kids, so you pretty much know the faces of the kids coming in. I mean, that's all well and good, but, you know, the problem is we have had mass shootings where kids just shoot their way into the school. So the visual stuff's not going to help you much there. It will keep out intruders maybe, but it clearly is not going to be a defense against somebody that wants to do them harm.
We've learned, of course, that the shooter's family is cooperating with police. What kind of information are investigators trying to get from them?
Oh, an unbelievable amount of potential information. The firearm, is it a family firearm? Have they seen any changes in their daughter from activities of, or changing activities, changing clothing, changing hair color, more depressed? And one key is going to be isolation. Do they see her as falling into more isolation? In other words, pulling away from friends, pulling away from the school. That's another indicator, because it's just such a bad thing for really any of us to do. But it can be a sign, because it gives shooters the ability, unfortunately, to sort of distort their own reality and justify committing this type of act. Because let's face it, you really have to dehumanize the people you're going after to be able to even kill people that you know and are classmates with.
Authorities were asked today if the Christmas holiday could be related to the shooting. Do you think that may play a factor here?
Well, maybe, but school shootings don't just happen overnight. So whatever has happened to this female student has been going on for several weeks. Now, granted, most, I guess, schools will close at the end of this current week, since Christmas is next week. So maybe, or it could be that she had decided to do this and knew that she would have to do it or wait till after the first of the year, and maybe she just felt so compelled to do it that she wasn't willing to do that.
The chief was asked earlier today if it's time to start talking about metal detectors in schools. Is that the answer from a law enforcement perspective in trying to keep our children safe?
No. I will tell you, I have read countless studies about metal detectors in schools where they've had mass shootings. The belief is, by most crime experts, that they don't deter mass shootings, and here's the reason why. Is that mass shootings are planned weeks and months in advance. And kids know the loopholes in schools. In other words, the layout of the school, I have no idea, but I can tell you I've done enough security audits where churches are attached to schools, which is fine, but it may give you other pathways to get into the school without even, if they had metal detectors, that you would not be intercepted. So, you know, schools can be a real nightmare because they're not designed to be prisons. They're not designed to be able to lock it down easily. And unfortunately, that creates holes, basically, in your security that kids can get through. And believe me, they're going to figure out a way. If they're that determined like she apparently was today, they'll figure out a way to get a weapon into the school.
Brad Garrett, our thanks to you for your insight and time, as always. Now to the mysterious drone sightings in 7 states across the Northeast, and now drones reported near an airbase in Ohio and in an airport outside of New York. The FBI and Homeland Security deployed state-of-the-art drone detection technology and infrared cameras to New York and New Jersey. And what President-elect Trump suggested about the drones today. Here's ABC's Whit Johnson.